Welcome to the MFS Wellness Podcast, a hybrid structure encompassing health, fitness, self-improvement, and entertainment, where no topic is off limits and all opinions are graciously welcomed.
Let's get on with the show!
And now, here's the host of the show, Mike Sinopoli.
This is the MFS Wellness Podcast. I am Mike Sinopoli, and as we continue to inch our way towards the fall, towards what I call weight gain season, so I wanted to get ahead of that right now today and talk to somebody who specializes in weight loss. And it's a gentleman I've been connected to for a few years now on social media, always putting out great content. He's a certified personal trainer. And he's the founder of My Weight Loss Coaching. His name's Shawn Pierce. Shawn, how are you doing today, sir?
Doing wonderful. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Oh, man, of course, man. This is my pleasure. I appreciate you. So, just want to kind of jump right into this. You started up. I like to start with clients, and I always love to hear their background story a little bit before we get into what you're doing now. As everyone seems to have this epiphany moment, this lead up to how they just became into health and fitness. And there is this I think there's like this click that needs to happen to everybody where they just go from like knowing about it to wanting to do it, but not really wanting the process to then boom, all of a sudden they're in it. That's their lifestyle. Do you have anything? You don't have to go too great into detail, anything you don't want to talk about, but did you have an aha moment, an epiphany, a time, something that led up to where you became this fitness professional?
Yes, actually, it was towards the end of when I was working at Christ Hospital, a metropolitan hospital in the southwest suburbs. And I was trying to get into nursing at the time. My grades, because of coming back to school from culinary arts, I couldn't get into a nursing program. So I was working at Christ as a PCA at the time for about 3.5 years, and I was on an orthopedic floor. Orthopedic floor is just hip replacements, knee replacements, back fusions, and amputations, generally from diabetes. So I started watching and seeing this environment that I wanted to work in, where basically all they were doing is chopping off limbs and replacing things like it was a mechanic shop, medicating you, and there wasn't a solution. Everybody there was obese. The nurses serving them, the patients walking in, and I was hired because I'm a big guy who could easily help pick up 300-pound women who had their knee replaced the day before. So it was that moment, that epiphany, that I was like, I'm doing the wrong thing. This needs to be more preventative. And there's got to be an option. I was always into my own health and wellness because I always had struggled with my own weight. Growing up in an obese household, you have a 40% chance with just one parent. I had two parents, which quite literally doubled. So just struggling with some very unhealthy eating habits, I pushed myself into that environment of learning about weightlifting at first, exercise, and then nutrition later on. And then that phased into the competitive fitness, which helped teach me about my own body. And that was when I started getting into the industry of wellness or health coaching in the form of weight loss.
Okay. Wow. That's great. Yeah. That's definitely something that we all have to keep our eyes on nowadays. I think that's one of the scariest things that I see out there is kind of what you saw back when you were working over there in that amputee section of that hospital. What an eye opener. And what blows my mind at times, man, I'll tell you, is that some of these folks that work in these even our RDs, registered dietitians, nutritionists, I see them still being obese. They work within the healthcare system and they're just overweight. And this is not to shame anybody. This is not body shaming. This is literally health related. This is literally the facts that 80% of health issues, chronic diseases, stem from being obese. Obese is a condition that leads to more issues, and I can see that there for you. I had a similar myself. I won't get into it too much, but I just saw what it was. I saw that they want to medicate first, then they don't put enough into prevention because we can go down a whole rabbit hole with the conspiracies and how it's all treated in the big pharma and everything like that. But we'll save that for maybe another time, just because that we'll be here for like 4 hours going back and forth with that nonsense. But so yeah, that's awesome, man. So you go into that, you start doing your stuff for yourself. And how do you go now? What you're doing is My Weight Loss Coaching is is the name of your company now. How long have you been doing that for? And how did you get from your own side of being competitive and doing your own thing to transitioning to this? And what was your path like from bridging that?
Great question. And I love this story because it was really like a powerful experience for me, because at this point in my life, I was also working on my spirituality. And I think that's a missing component with a lot of our health and wellness, is a lack of addressing spirituality and that aspect of our health. And so I had, long story short, decided that, my purpose was to help others, that I wanted to be a healer, that I didn't want to just, help people get abs. I didn't want to help people become bodybuilders. I got into that industry as an amateur and saw how full of shit that industry is. We market with people who are taking thousands of dollars worth of drugs. I was sucked into that environment myself in the competitive scene, and it sets very unreal expectations for especially the youth. That it's upsetting, and we'll get into that maybe in the time to come. But we're teaching the wrong message, and that's that drugs are the answer versus naturopathic methods of just healing. And I started with a company who was online, and I won't mention them because I no longer work with them, but they were following a theory of what's called food coupling, and there's no science behind it. But what it did was it helped people pull away from whole foods or from processed foods and sugary drinks and start itemizing their meals. I took it a step further, and when I really started researching this food coupling and seeing that there just wasn't enough protein in these people's daily nutrition, I created my own program and kind of spun off from there. I already had meal prep clients that I was prepping for this business I was working for the online coaching. So I just thought, why am I doing it for somebody else? I'll start doing it for myself. I was working in a restaurant at the time to help subsidize some of the extra income until, my wife, who was with me, well before we got married, working with me on this and supporting me, just, really encouraged me to step out on my own. And it's a continuous learning process. We got into the business now 9 years ago, working in coaching and meal prepping and then training clients. I offer mainly the online coaching because I can reach so much more people across the U.S. And then, of course, the local area, I also offer the personal training and meal prepping because that can be a complication for my clients. So that's where I started really applying my culinary background into meal prep and just working on creating more exciting meals for eating healthy than what, let's be honest, the health and wellness industry was run by meatheads all the way up until recently. So they were giving them, chicken with Mrs. Dash and broccoli, and that's your meal to eat. You shouldn't need to eat bodybuilding meals for just losing general weight. For the 50 to 60-year-old woman, she just needs to focus on some protein and, no chicken and broccoli or chicken and rice. It's not a meal prep meal for a bodybuilder.
Exactly. And when I got started in this, what you're saying here resonates so heavily with me, because I remember talking to one of my longest running clients, and she was working with a nutritionist or something of the sort. And actually she was a bodybuilder, a fitness competitor. And she showed me the meal plan that was written for her from this. She paid for it from this bodybuilder. And don't get me wrong, she was probably going to get jacked on this thing. But how long does a mother of three who's in her late 30s trying to just to lose that little bit of, body fat that she's just trying to feel more comfortable so she can go on vacation with her kids in a bikini, or she just wants to get a little healthier, get her blood sugar down or something like that. But, that's the problem here, is that those are not sustainable. And I think we become so extreme in so many ways. I think that this social media has created two extremes, and then the general public, I feel, has fallen in between two extremes. One being the health and fitness industry, with pushing supplements, with pushing these crazy diets, these restrictive diets that are not sustainable. They actually end up tearing away your muscle mass and raising your body fat percentage when you're done. So, a lot of people will say, well, I lost this much weight, but then I gained it all back. And I'm usually like, no, I hate to say this to you. You lost the weight, you gained the weight back, but now you're at a different skeletal muscle mass to body fat percentage ratio because you were not eating enough protein, like you said, in there. Then you got the big food corporations. They're the ones pushing all this hyper palatable food that just, is easy to eat, this fast food that's just right there. And then our work culture comes in with that, speeds us all up, and now we don't even pay attention to what we're eating. So that's the struggle.
It is. And there are some things within what you said to unpack and really express what we're missing from that. See, also these restrictive diets coming from bodybuilders are also created from people with healed metabolisms. Bodybuilders live very sheltered lives. They have very low stress levels. They have everything compartmentalized perfectly. So their metabolisms work perfectly. And then they apply that exact methodology to somebody who has very high, basically pre-diabetic, high insulin resistance. You're going to have to approach it differently. They're not going to respond the same. I've had that problem. That's where my program adapted to having a more long-term approach, for one. Two, looking at it as they're not healed, so we have to approach it much differently than what would work for me. And that was a tough lesson to learn. And then the realized expectations for my clients. People think they're going to fix 40 years of metabolic damage in 3 months.
Yeah.
And that's not how it goes. So there's a rebound effect afterwards for any substantial weight loss. And that's been proven scientifically. Now we have to talk about, and it's a gray area, about how long do you have to hold on to that strict weight before your body balances out hormonally, because it's all an endocrine issue. You got leptin and ghrelin, who are hormones that associate with hunger and satiation, and they become severely imbalanced when you drop a substantial amount of weight, whether it's healthy or not. And then they increase so dramatically that they've caused your body to gain back that weight. You have to have somebody next to you for maybe 3-6 months, sometimes 9 if you come drop off 100 pounds, to sit there and regimentate your life and keep you structured, giving you a cheat meal, yes, giving you some enjoyable foods along the way, but also learning to now hold this new structured lifestyle that you created in a matter of 12 weeks. People just have these, I can do it, and it's the ego. And then that's also where I've delved into the psychology and the mental health aspect of what we see probably with a lot of clients that we're not able to address because we're not certified to do so, but quite obvious. I mean, and that's where I was blessed to work with the therapy world with therapists in addressing their clients' health from my program standpoint to help reduce those as well. So getting to feedback from them on what causes certain mental issues, how to approach them, so I can better communicate with my clients, because I'm communicating with them every day.
Right.
So it's just a necessity to build a new lifestyle and a framework in an adult. Kids are easier to adapt.
Yeah. And it really comes down to that. And, like one thing I remember speaking to some clients, what they like to do, or like perspectives, even they always like to wait for life to get less busy or die down for this X amount, this amount of time where they don't have a lot of events, typically after the new year, and where all the holidays die down, and then they're not out as much, and it works slower during this point. And the best thing you can do is not think that way, because guess what? All that shit's going to come back. Stressful moments will be back. And if your trigger is food to stress, that you haven't addressed it, you haven't done it. And then your life gets busy, your work gets busy. You got to figure out, you can't just, it's better off to figure it out. And let me know if you agree with me, to figure out your new lifestyle around what was current and going on with you right now, or take it on during these stressful times. And so then it gets easier as it goes, because you're not going to be able to condition yourself to manage it while you're in this, siesta part of life that you think you're in. And sometimes you think it's going to be there. You sign up with the coach, you sign up with the trainer, and then bam, 5 days later, life hits you, right? That's just kind of how it goes.
I agree. I have people who will contact me and they'll be like, well, I'd like to schedule it after the new year. And it's October when they contact me. I'm like, why not now? While you learn all the challenges in the Christmas season that you're going to end up putting on 30 pounds, possibly more. Why not learn how to navigate those challenges that are going to obviously be there for you if you haven't learned them yet? And I've been very successful when I can convince my clients, but the hardest part is getting that emotional connection with them, because they have to at least see a glimmer of hope. It's a lot of hopelessness out there because our bodies are not operating as they should due to all the endocrine disruptions that we've had from food, environment, stress.
Oh yeah, it's hideous. It's bad out there, and a lot of people also, we kind of live in, I think, a perfectionist society in a sense, and I feel like people get so down on themselves. And you know what? I'm not preaching this, because I do this myself, and I have done this myself in the past. That I get so perfection orientated. I get and then people do this, and they just get so down on themselves that they revert all to this, low self-worth, and then low self-worth brings upon old habits, and old habits usually include eating and boozing and maybe even drugs and some other stuff. And then again, that affects the mentality. That's probably because they're missing the spirituality. And there's all this different behavioral, habitual stuff that we got to connect. And this is really, truthfully, more of a therapist job than it is a trainer, a physical. This is
Agreed.
Right. So let's
but here's the beauty of it. I found great success in the fact that I don't have that boundary of having to speak within a therapy sense. I can speak to them man to man, person to person. Even with some of my clients who are fellow Christians, we've been able to pray together to kind of work through some of these issues that are psychologically driven, spiritually driven. And also, I don't have to worry about, I guess, the patient doctor rapport, because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist. And I do also work with therapists alongside with my clients. I actually will, if I address something such as a possible eating disorder, or very commonly I see a lot of alcoholism, I will address that and try to refer that to possibly somebody who can help them, because it is out of my realm of abilities, but I do see a lot of it, and I try to bring that in. I definitely try to get my clients going to a chiropractor if they're complaining about certain areas of the body that sound like they're just needing to be addressed simply with some chiropractic care, or yoga, definitely that route. And then of course, doctors. So, I don't think that I am 100% against the medical industry. I just saw it from the inside, and I feel that there's a naturopathic process to heal most of what we have wrong. I mean,
right.
The knees and hip replacements, that's inflammation from highly processed foods that were just wearing down our joints. Makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
The diabetics, our American Diabetes Association is hilarious, and their diet alone. They push carbs. I have clients who come in with a lot of clients who come in with specific diagnoses like diabetes, hypertension. They're on blood pressure meds, and right there off the top, blood pressure. We get them drinking the proper amount of water, their blood pressure goes back down to normal. That's one medication they can fix right off the bat. They think it's salt when it's just a lack of hydration. And that's a big one. And then it just, we keep knocking them off the list. But if we can't address those naturally, we'll be on meds for the rest of our lives. And controlled diabetes still causes, breakdown of the body. So you're still getting the toes cut off, and then the ankle, and then the leg. You're still going to have a miserable time with how your body reacts. You're eventually something's going to shut down.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, why live with diabetes when you can heal from it? And oddly enough, one of my first clients, her name was Tracy. her husband was shadowing her coaching program with me, and he had type 2 diabetes. He ended up curing himself of that just by shadowing the program protocols, and dropped 25 pounds on top of it. And I didn't even know he was shadowing it, but she had to tell me at the end, like, my husband doesn't have diabetes anymore. I'm like, yeah, it's straightforward.
Yeah.
Very easy to heal over a long period of time.
That happens all the time. And it goes to show you kind of what you started out with when you grew up in an environment with obesity. And that goes not just for parents, that goes also for your significant other, like you're saying here. Like, one person takes on the coach and the trainer, and the other person just by dumb luck seems to follow suit, strictly because maybe you're cooking differently, you're eating differently, you're not going out to gorge on some pizza or something as regularly. And then, man, if you're doing that regularly and you're putting on the pounds, 25 pounds off is easy to do if you just make some little changes.
Man, right?
Yeah, for a dude, absolutely. And then with talking diabetes and diabetics, I tend to do say the same thing as you. I've said this to clients before. Look, I know your blood sugar is getting up there. You're pre-diabetic, and I can't sit there and tell you, yes, here you go, I'm going to reverse your diabetes, lower your blood sugar. Yes, I cannot say that. I can't qualify. But I said, look, we can work on your body composition, and that can in turn lower it. So that's something we can say. Now, I wanted to ask you if I have sort of went with, because we have a carb fear in this country, a very weird, wild carb fear up to where people have been afraid to eat fruit. So it's out of control. So what do you think of like the glycemic index? Do you believe in that? Because I've been looking at the glycemic index to help clients that still want to have their carbohydrates but need to lower their blood sugar, and I will just help them construct a meal plan or give them a list of the lower glycemic carbohydrates that don't spike the blood sugar as much. What's your thoughts on that? Is that BS?
For me, everyone's different. So if I have a client who has diabetes, we are immediately going to pull carbohydrates to heal insulin sensitivity. You bring that down, then the insulin becomes more sensitive, and then over time you can heal that insulin issue. And the type 2, if it's type 2 diabetes, can be reversed over time. Now, with other factors involved, especially sleep, which is another factor that most people aren't getting enough. So when they do these factors you tell them to do, and they're like, why isn't anything happening? It's the underlying issue of a lack of rest. Your body can't heal without that rest. But I have used low carb diets to heal metabolic dysfunction. So that's a short-term fix, or I should say a short-term diet, not something sustainable, but we do that within a 12-week period to bring those levels dramatically down, especially fruit at night. If I'm going to use somebody that is diabetic and ease them into no carbs first, I would use carbs probably first thing in the morning, and I like to only use fruit, fresh fruit. I am not a big fan of the potatoes and rice for my clients because they're coming to me looking to typically heal metabolic dysfunction, and they don't even know what that means yet. And it's like, I want to drop weight. I'm like, yeah, but you have to heal your metabolism, which is basically walking back the damage you did over whatever many years you've been alive. You've done several things that you don't even know you did to damage your metabolism. We walk it back. You can have a metabolism an 18-year-old again. And I've had that, and I've had clients have that. And it's incredible to see, feel, and I just want to share it with them. But yeah, it's definitely a temporary situation. Long-term, like I would say the carnivore diet is hard for me to sustain, and I can't see others sustaining that since I've been living this lifestyle for, a good 10 years now. I couldn't see myself not eating any carbohydrates. I just really like to focus, once my clients have healed metabolic damage, to focus on adequate amounts of carbohydrates. So better placed carbohydrates, where they're going to burn off or else they're going to add up because of lack of activity.
Right.
So,
and it feels like, what you're saying is great, because what we've been taught by society, by these Atkins and these carnivore diets and the South Beach and all this stuff over the last couple of decades, is the elimination of carbs, which creates a restriction and a fear. And I like what you're doing here. What you're doing is almost what I like to say, we need more unlearning than learning right now, I think, in a lot of cases. So what you're doing is bringing them back with the carbohydrates a little bit, and then like almost resetting baseline for it, and then like reintroducing it, right? Is that correct? And then reintroducing something they might like
down the line, if it's applicable, yes. Now, sometimes 12 weeks isn't long enough to heal a lot of insulin resistance. I mean, I work with guys who are 300, 350 pounds. So we're talking about some really heavy damage. This is a long-term, low carbohydrate meal plan that can go on 9 months before you're healed. But if you drop that 100 pounds, I have them also working on a high protein intake so that they're still trying to build muscle. They have a workout plan, supplements to help optimize that. And then once things balance out, you get down that 100 pounds and your body is much more metabolically healed. Then we start talking about adding in fruit again and having a cheat meal once a week. Anything you want, doesn't have to have restrictions, but typically that cheat meal teaches them how bad that food once was when they get as sick as they get. And that happened to me, and it still happens to me anytime I have a cheat meal. I'm keeling over, dying, and it's your body telling you, hey, I don't like this, and it's a learned experience. And so that's why it's so important for me, educate my clients along the way so they know this is not a sustainable lifestyle. This is temporary. And I keep telling them that because, yes, the mind loves to play with you, especially with high blood sugars. Yeah. You're going to be always craving carbs. I had a client just last night. He ate 2 apples and 2 cups of berries before bed because he has an insanely high insulin resistance right now from poor sleep and high stress. So he's just craving carbs like no one else. So it's hard to really battle that.
It's tough. It's physical and mental, I think,
it is. Yeah. And so that's where the mental aspect, I've been really searching to find a solution for my clients, because we are missing that component in the basic health and wellness coaching and fitness. It's all like, from that masculine standpoint, just fight through it, the David Goggin type mentality, where if you have been in a very unhealthy weight, you realize, and I got up to 291. Your hormones make you think differently. So you're much more depressed, you're much more anxious, you're much more doubtful. Also, your estrogen levels are up. So you quite literally, as a man, are acting more feminine until you bring those levels back down. So from a practitioner standpoint, I have to understand, like, these guys can't be treated as harsh. And I've had some pushback when I've been giving that tough love because they were hormonally imbalanced, and they definitely took it as like an attack when I'm just like, hey, you don't want to be here forever. Let's get going. That's all I said to the guy. And he was like, "Quit talking to me like that." Like, okay, well, and the backstory, he had wine the week before, and was doing a half hour of bike riding on a stationary bike to try to burn it off before he checked in with me and caught onto it. And it was just a clusterfuck of interesting bullshit.
It's a lot. And and it goes trainer and client. Honesty, empathy, and honesty are huge. You can't sit there and we can't lie to you. Sometimes the truth is not fun, but we're not going to sugarcoat it too much, but we can be empathetic and meet you where you're at, in that sense, I believe. And like you said, just all these things are just, it's mental. It's a mental hormonal imbalance. It's emotional. It all ties in, and we just need to figure out a way to reach those people. And not, it's these diet plans that are marketed out there are meant to be one size fits all. It's like, here's our plan, you all flock to it, and whoever holds on stays. Most people just fall off. They just want your money. But the right way to go, it's individualized. You got to find the right process for you, because someone that's a firefighter is going to have a different way than a stay-at-home mother with 4 kids. It's going to be completely different. So you have to structure it. You can't give those 2 people the same diet plan, the same meal plan, the same macro count. And again, like you're saying, I think we have as much as we have an overeating issue, we have a protein deficiency issue in this country. And again, mainstream society is not doing us any favors, because they're pushing veganism like no other. And it's like, look, be a vegan. You can do a vegan diet if you want to. If it's for moral or ethical reasons, that's on you. That's you. But as health wise, there's a lot of deficiencies that go along with something like that. And I think we're seeing that shift a little bit even more, and not helping people. And I believe we're even reducing our life expectancy at this point, here in the United States, at least. But to kind of go forward with it a little bit, with going along with your My Weight Loss coaching, you are, and I saw you on Instagram, and Facebook, you have a current challenge you have coming up. And, I wanted to go ahead and see if you wanted to put that out there for anybody that you might be trying to put out there that we want to share this episode with. You can give a little bit more than just a 90-second Instagram reel. You can give a little more info on it if you wanted to use this time. I mean, I want to hear about it.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So I set up a 21-day challenge, starts September 16th on Facebook. It's a private group, free to attend. And I'm going to be working on some basic principles for our general health and wellness that I feel that will make the most impact on your overall health. So whether you're dealing with weight, unwanted weight gain, stress levels, high blood pressure, we'll be able to address these with these 3 principles I'm working on. I'll be also offering recipes to this group. So I've created a recipe book that's formatted for meal prepping that I give my clients. I'll be offering this to the group members. We'll be doing live chats on there. So I'll be answering some questions that'll be posted or that are messaged to me from my clientele about just some of the principles or what they're personally dealing with. And we'll be doing that Q&A live. And then hopefully if this goes well, I'll be doing a lot more 21-day challenges to come. This is my first pilot 21-day challenge. So I'm excited to get it started.
That sounds awesome. And I like how you're taking a good route to it. You're not promising some rapid weight loss crap that they like to do. That they a lot of people, will hear a 21-day challenge and think they're going to change, like you said before, 30 or 40 years of bodily neglect within that time frame. And guys, I'm going to tell you right now, that ain't true. That ain't possible. You need to be either getting some severe surgeries or drugs going if you're going to do that, and that ain't the right way to go. So right here, this guy is telling you, this is just to get you started off. This is just to get you to learn some stuff about yourself and to figure something out, and commit to the long term, commit to forever. Like some part, and it's going to be in phases. What you're currently doing right now and what you do in the 21-day challenge ain't going to be forever, and what you do after that's not forever. It's just you're constantly evolving through this whole just journey, this process. And there's no end date. There really isn't, right? I always tell people that there's no end date. The end date is your death date, when you just stop caring about your health and wellness. And the close, and you can tell me if you agree or disagree with me on this or not. I say, if you wanted me to get a final place, a final spot with everything health and fitness wise, it's when you're eating easily, well enough, you're maintaining a good BMI, and you're happy with your life, and essentially in a good place mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and everything like that. That's probably the end game, but you can't stop. You have to just continue to work on yourself. That's just the way it goes.
I agree. And because there's ebbs and flows of, at work, all of a sudden you got a project. So there's a lot of stress, and that stress has a residual effect and spikes cortisol. And then all of a sudden you're having problems with sleep. So then you start putting on this weight because you're only getting 4 hours of sleep for a month working on this project. In that time, you're also eating junk because high cortisol levels are causing you to crave prep food, and your principles are going out the window because you're working so hard. So there's that. But to understand, hey, in a month I can heal my body after I get through this stressful time. B, I know the supplements I need to focus on to help bring down those cortisol levels. And C, hey, I gotta get to sleep. That's got to be a non-negotiable, because that's going to make or break what's going on in my personal and professional life right now. You have those tools after you start learning about your own body and how it works. And also if you've healed and got to that perfect utopia that you just outlined. And then of course, spiritually and emotionally, we're always having mental health issues, whether they're stress, small anxiety, or, your parent dies. That they're things that we're not prepared for that are going to help us or are going to challenge us throughout our lives. And that's why the continuous education, you're continuously educating for the rest of your life. And that's what kept me engaged, is to know that I'm not just going to be training some meathead on how to do a bench press so that he can get on stage and get a little plastic trophy. I'm actually helping somebody to heal their body, to live maybe 20 more years to spend with their grandchildren, not limping around, but grabbing the baseball and throwing it and playing with their grandchildren. It's a huge fulfilling moment for you when you get to have that kind of clientele versus, just, I want to get big. I want it.
Get me jacked, bro. Get me jacked, bro.
And that's where it's all starting, right? Like, I know that's where it started for me. I wanted to learn to lift because I was out of shape, and I thought that was the solution, is just the gym, and it's part of it.
Mhm.
But I now focus on the 23 hours outside of the gym that
Oh
are
yeah.
far more impactful than the 1 hour in the gym.
Oh yeah, 100%. And this is, this is a realization if you're listening right now and maybe you're not there, you will get there. It takes time, and it takes these moments of extremes and these moments of, hey, that's how I started too. I just was like, and a lot of us stem from our own insecurities too. I say it all the time. What the hell? How do you stay in shape? Well, it started out because I was just insecure. I was uncomfortable in my body. I had some insecurities personally, and I turned to the gym, and I went to the gym, and I forced myself into it, and I did it, and I kept going, saw the results, felt better. And then when you start helping people, that really becomes when another switch that gets flipped. Like when I started doing it, I told it in podcasts before. I was approached by a friend to help her with, and she wanted to pay me. And the imposter syndrome that struck me, I easily could have cowered away, said, "Oh no, 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 I don't do that. I can't help you. I'm not good enough for that. I'm not that." But I did it. I went for it. And that's just the way it goes. And now, hundreds of clients later, people I've helped, and the way that they talk about me, almost it gets, I'm sure you've had it before too, where you're just humbled, and it's like, wow, like this person is like is truly opening their eyes and seeing past all the bullshit that they've been fed throughout these years, and all these myths. And what I want to go from there, with all the myths, is I was on your Instagram, and you had put one out there that I really liked, and a reel, that is, and it was the 3 myths of health and fitness. And I
Mm.
want to see if you, I don't know if you remember doing it or not,
Oh
but
yeah.
okay, you do, good, because I know there's a lot of content out there. But I wanted to see, say, because I agree with all these, and there's plenty of myths. We could probably be here and talk at least about 2025 just off the top of our heads. I could
Mhm.
probably make an extensive list of about 75 plus, but we're going to focus on the 3 that you'd mentioned because I think they're important. And the first one, and females becoming bulky by lifting weights. So this has been one that's plagued females, and I think that it's a hard bridge to cross, because I'll tell you, my main client over the last 7 years has been a female in her late 30s, early 40s, usually done having kids. They all want their body back, and they want to get themselves back to feeling good. And as a man, I can't necessarily know how that feels, but I try my best. But I do have to push weightlifting for them, strength training, resistance, anything of the sort that they're just so afraid of doing. They've been marketed by the fitness industry with the little pink weights and the orange theories and the running around and the circuit training and the sweating and the ellipticals to just get skinny and skinny, skinny. And that doesn't work. So what do you say to these?
Oh, I love this one, because see, what we're also learning now in the wellness industry is that a lot of women have endocrine damage from overdoing the cardio because they're not getting enough sleep. They have high cortisol levels from just general stress. Women are much more delicate than men in a hormonal sense, so stress affects them much more dramatically. I see this with all my clients. I'm monitoring them daily, and my female clients, they all come in wanting to just get skinny because they've been indoctrinated into thinking cardio is the cure. Plus, because of those high cortisol levels from all the stress, they have that adrenaline to do it. So they think it's the actual solution. But because of those high cortisol levels, they actually end up having high insulin levels, and they end up just burning off muscle tissue and getting skinny fat.
Mhm.
So yeah, I encourage and enforce no cardio for my females anymore, walking only, weightlifting instead, because also a lot of women don't know it, but they have undiagnosed PCOS, which is an issue with hormones that can also affect your reproductive system, but it's a higher test level. So with those hormones out of balance, they can much easily gain weight. And then women who go into the gym and want to get bulked up and work out, they're eating heavy carbs. So yeah, it just puts on more body fat than muscle.
Yep.
Because if your insulin levels aren't completely healed, you won't put on muscle tissue the same as you would. And it's just a matter of getting those healed first. And so cardio, it's got to be low impact, focus on sleep. And I see a lot of positive results with 9 hours of sleep with my female clients, just because they have to get that extra in to heal from all the stress in their day, and those hormone imbalances.
Absolutely. And one thing that's I talked about this with a friend of mine, Marcy Nevin, on the show. She had like 9 badges of honor that she did, and that shouldn't be a badge of honor, that we wear as a badge of honor that isn't in society. And one of them was bragging about not getting sleep. Like like team no sleep and all that bullshit. Like we were just crapping all over that.
It's another Goggin mentality, right?
Nah, fuck
You
that.
didn't sleep, who cares? Go run.
No,
It's like cool, but then you're just burning off all the muscle tissue you just built doing leg day.
yeah.
And that happened to me as well. I did not respect sleep when I was training for bodybuilding, and I burned off all the hard-earned muscle I did during the contest season because I was not getting enough sleep and doing cardio, and it was just burning muscle, and I looked weird.
Right. And David Goggins and people like that, Bedros Keuilian, some of these guys who are out there pushing different ways with this aggressive beast mode mentality. Now, beast mode is only good for the moment. Let it be a temporary, fleeting piece of motivation for you. If throwing on a David Goggins video gets you up in the morning and gets you out and gets you to the gym, fine. But you got to understand that mode, that mentality, that go bust ass, go no sleep, run, move, go. That's fine to get your ass up, but you can't live like that. You can't keep going and dragging that way. You got to rest and you got to recover. And
well, if you're a motivational speaker, you can just do that every day of your life, but
right.
not everyone has that lifestyle. So it's about understanding others' lives and what really worked for them.
Yeah.
Like you said earlier, you're going to treat the housewife who's trying to get that baby weight off differently than the firefighter. And I've worked with those both. And yeah, it's a completely different approach. Those challenges or pain points in their life are completely different. So you just either you can't approach them properly because you just don't know. And there was a point in my life where I didn't have some of the answers for my clients because I hadn't understood what was going on with their lifestyle, with their stress levels. And yeah, I had clients that would just flatline with their weight and wouldn't make any progress and would be like 270. And it was just those stress levels. And if I had just pulled off the cardio, they would have started healing quicker.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably something that's good to hear. You don't have to do as much cardio as you think. Most people don't even look forward to that shit.
Well, and I tell my clients now, the abs I had back when I was doing a ton of cardio, I still have, and I just walk 30 to 60 minutes a day now.
And there is a point, like we said before too, like you get to a certain point, you build that muscle, you're there to maintain it. It's, I don't want to say the word easier, but it becomes
easier.
It is easier, right?
So much easier. I skip so many workouts all the time, and then I come back to it 2 weeks later. I'm like, I still got it. That's great.
That just happened to me. I took about a week off and I went to the gym and I felt like I had a great pump. I felt good. I had energy. I felt like I looked even better by taking a week off. So like, I mean, wow, it felt better and looked better. Both matter. So, second, well, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. We'll carry on forever.
No, exactly. Well, I was going to go right into your second myth, which we already kind of addressed, which was cardio is the driver of fat loss. So if you had more to add to that, we all think that's the case. I feel like just because like I look at it like investing and working and building a business, right? Like when you build muscle, you're building like an internal metabolism and a fat burning machine that's going to go ahead and do the work that cardio was going to do. You can toil yourself on a treadmill for hours on end, but if you can train your body to burn a few hundred extra calories off a day, that's done through strength training methodically through calorie surplus over months and months and months. And that's the driver of fat loss to me, but I'm going to let you go ahead at that.
I agree. And it really comes down to that lifestyle of the client. So I'll ask a client who may want to do cardio, and I'm like, you're only getting around 6 hours of sleep right now, buddy. Let's work on the sleep first, get you in a 60-minute walk. Now, after maybe 2 months of getting consistently 8 hours of sleep, he's healing his metabolism. I'm seeing weight come off of his body. So he definitely, you could tell the metabolic dysfunction is going back. Hey, go for a long run now that you're a cross-country runner. Yeah, you can go for it. But if you're not getting the proper sleep and not managing your stress, it's only going to actually exacerbate the weight gain, the body fat gain, I should say, and burn muscle tissue. And that's unfortunate because a lot of us have learned that the hard way because, again, that fitness world thinks that it's all about, calories in versus calories out. And that's in a perfect metabolism, which no one has anymore.
Right. Exactly. It's crazy. And it's funny that you wouldn't think, you imagine sitting down, not knowing a lot about this stuff, trying to get some help. And your coach says to you, instead of go outside and run for 2 miles or hours on end, they tell you to wait, don't run. I want you to sleep an extra 2 hours, like find that instead. Like, oh, you want me to lay in bed and be asleep. You want me to push my alarm up a few hours if I can. That's amazing. And
It
it's
sounds
really,
to us, but I will tell you that's the biggest problem I have with my clients. They're kicking and screaming about the sleep because everyone loves to still act like they're teenagers at night and
oh
stay
yeah.
up late and snack and watch their favorite show.
Mhm.
And it's like, bro, your TV literally runs your life, and it would be the simple fix is to step away and go to bed at 8:30, 9 o'clock, like an adult, because you're getting up at 5 a.m. You need
Yep.
it.
I hear you, and I'll tell you, man, I had to make a huge transition in my life a while back, and I'm happy I did. I used to Sundays, especially during football season, from noon till 7, and even later sometimes with Sunday night football. I would say this is my day. This was like my shitty religion. I would sit there and drink craft beer all day, maybe mixed drinks, order some food. Same thing then at night, order more food. I realized that what I was doing to myself was actually medicating myself for what was coming for the week. AKA I was fighting the Sunday scaries.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what I had to do was sort of get myself in more of a position. What really needed to happen for me to fix my health was to get happier in my line of work, in a sense, and get my shit together and realize that, why do I feel like crap? Why was I going to do that? So now I doubled down, right? I partied all Sunday. I abused my body all Sunday. And guess who pays for it? Monday morning version of me, who's already pissed off that he's got to go to the job he doesn't like. Now I feel like I got extra bloat all over me. I got a headache and I'm dehydrated. So I'm like, what good is this Sunday shit doing?
And carbs like that and alcohol probably threw off your sleep at night, so you didn't get
Oh,
good sleep.
yeah, you're right. And that was actually where I was going. Actually, before I got all worried, that's where I was actually going with it. Was that
Yeah.
how shitty of a sleep I'd have after a day like that?
Oh, that's bad. But you're right. That's an underlying mental health issue. And let's be honest, our country has an underlying mental health issue that we're not addressing at all either. I mean, the homeless issue is a mental health issue. These are a lot of
Absolutely.
addicts that are out there. So we're not addressing that. I think most importantly, us being two men, that men need to talk more and have more community.
Yep.
Maybe not publicly, but in private small groups. Men need more community to talk to someone because guys are literally killing themselves at a much higher rate, and we die much sooner because of the things that we hold to ourselves.
And it's unfortunate. And not to go too far off on a tangent, I think it's also because of uh, our unfortunate society that's almost shaming white men in a sense. And we all want to lift everybody else up, but at the same, and that's great. And I'm for that. As long as we're not putting somebody else down. We are also human beings. We have emotions, and we are kind of conditioned to hide those. And no one's going to feel sorry for us. And it's not that we're looking for sympathy or holding a victim mentality, but we are human beings that have high emotions. I have been through probably the highest emotional time in my life over the last year or two. And it's just what it is. And I'm not a victim of that. I'm just a human being. But to be shunned that way and to work through it, it's tough. And it's men turn to food too. Men turn to drugs, to alcohol, to suicide. And it's brutal.
Well, and not only to help one another, but I think it's time to teach the generation underneath us because those guys are turning to the computers, the phones, answers from entertainment rather than their own families with their problems. And there's a much higher suicide rate with kids 10 to 14 now. And I was shocked to hear that's the demographic of males that is the highest suicide rate. And it makes a lot of sense. I mean, we're not talking to a male peer because basically they're the bad guy now, right?
Right, right.
They're the guy that could have the creepy van that could end up taking you away. And we've demonized men in general because unfortunately there are bad men out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we do need to still have those conversations with other men and also set a standard for the young men who will then hopefully avoid some of this unwanted mental health issues that we have been plagued with. Because let's be honest, alcoholism is from the beginning of time. I mean, the Irish are known for it.
Yep.
So it's a matter of just something that we've tried to abolish in the early 1900s because of what it does to this country. They had a genuine reason to, and it was just our rebellious nature that causes us to use these things. And isn't that the underlying reason why we junk food too, right?
Oh
We
yeah.
have this rebellious nature that we just want to do dumb things all the time. I want to stay up late and watch, 12 episodes of whatever it is that I'm into at the moment. It's no. Having that voice that you can say no to, and also the structure is what's going to keep you on board. We fall short, but
Yeah, and one thing leads to another. Like you said, you start drinking, and then you lead to the shitty food, and again, I think that demographic, that 10 to 14 year range that you speak of, how old were those kids 4 years ago, right? So now you're talking. I always look into things, 6 to 10. Um, 6 to 10. That's my daughter's age range right now, between those
Mhm.
ranges. And what happens in those years, I think you develop a lot and you learn a lot, you see reality a lot. And though they grew up with the COVID stuff,
Yeah,
with
they
that
didn't
time of
learn.
life, and pushing this virtual generation, and this is not talking to people, and it's isolating. They were isolated a lot, that demographic there. Just speaking from the present time here. So I could be wrong. I just look at trends and I just like ask questions. I'm not afraid to be wrong. So I don't know if that's it, or it's just strictly our society. One meme that always comes up, Shawn, is that I see, and I really agree with it, is that social media has come along and removed the audience and gave everybody a stage. And I think that's just sort of pushed ego, pushed like, I need to be something. I need to be this. I need to be that. I need X amount of likes. I need X amount of followers. I need this. I need this, all this stuff. And I don't think that there's just not enough room for everybody to go for that. And I also think that's just straight up external validation. Um, and then what happens when you don't get it? It's a cycle, right? You turn to food, you turn to booze, you turn to drugs, you turn to suicide. I don't know. That's just me spewing.
I mean, if you saw that one documentary on that TikTok guy who ended up killing his, I think, wife because he got super popular and he created a drug problem,
Mm,
and all of a sudden he's abusing her, and then he catches her with a woman and she kills her. He just
yeah,
all
that's
about being famous. He had 1 million followers. He got obsessed with the whole characters he was playing, and it was an interesting one that just shows how impactful being on social media can be for your psyche and your mental health. I mean, it changed him, and he ended up killing his unborn child and his wife
unbelievable.
out of a
That is,
rage.
there's like anything else, though it's a two-way deal. It's freedom is that way, and we don't want to lose that, of course. And
No, no,
that's
no, and
yeah.
I think it's a great tool for especially you and I
Oh
to
yeah.
to clients, and let them assess what information they want to adapt and what they think is maybe not true. I found that well, for one, I found so many more reputable naturopathic doctors from social media platforms now than I would have ever known just going to business networking events in the neighborhood.
Right.
Uh, and just learning from them and talking with them and what I could, like kind of like troubleshooting with them on certain clients I've had in the past and what they would do or what could be wrong here and learning so much just from some of the small things and for myself, most importantly. I mean, like I follow a neurological a neuro doctor who I just found out Benadryl long term causes dementia, and I was taking that stuff for years just to fall asleep at night.
Right. And a lot of people that hear that, I don't doubt it, because a lot of people that hear that kind of stuff, oh, that's BS, that's BS. We've been doing that. I don't have, but look at the past, man. We're only 50, 60 years removed of doctors having recommended cigarettes that they recommend, and they promote that, you
Well,
know. So,
and more often than not, the only continued education a MD has is on pharmacology. He does not typically train unless he's a specialized surgeon and he's learning his craft. But otherwise, they're just trying to keep up with the pharmacology
yeah,
because every
exactly.
time you push something new, they're not trying to learn. Oh, well, I have 3 clients come in over 100 pounds today, and they're all complaining about lack of sleep. Maybe I should look into sleep. I
Mhm.
went to a sleep specialist doctor out here in Naperville, and he immediately, before even like getting me tested, is like, "Oh yeah, you need a CPAP." He's like, "It's structural, your jawline," and I'm thinking, "No, it's not true. You can't do." And it's so commonly they connect you with something they can make money off of. That CPAP was 2 installments of $1,700 right there for a CPAP machine. That's with my insurance.
Wow.
I
That's
know.
Yeah, that's a problem to me, and then again, like we said before, we know Western medicine has its good it's good, and the doctors,
Yes.
but the doctor is not somewhere you want to be going to very often. You don't want to be there. Preventative is great, but the most preventative you can do is yourself. And I've actually, and you want to talk imposter syndrome, I'm sure maybe you've been there too, but I've had clients that are doctors, and I get it. Okay. Like, I understand that, like, okay, you're specializing in podiatry or you're a brain surgeon. I don't need a brain surgeon to know how many grams of protein I should be eating a day. And what I want them to be able to operate on my brain tumor without killing me. So I get that. And I'm not trying to say that there's something wrong. We need those people. Those are essential. That is essential work. And
Agreed.
it doesn't shit on doctors for not knowing nutrition, because that is preventative, but it's kind of just passing it over back to you, not you, Shawn, but to
I
you,
mean,
the listener.
I'll shit on doctors. I think most of them should be disbarred, and we should have a new class, just a lot more certifications involved with
Sure.
doctors. But once we reestablish that connection with pharmacology and such, that we can actually have that conversation, because until big pharma gets out of the pocket of every doctor, we can't have an honest conversation with them. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, the medical industry in itself is so indoctrinated. When coming from working in there all my life and being around family that worked in the medical industry, they don't understand, like, you don't have to pop a pill for everything. Like, you
Mhm.
literally can just, if you have a cold, you don't need a Z pack.
Right.
You could just
80%,
Medipop.
80% of medications that people are on, they go off of it with the right diet and everything like that. They're sure. I know there's going to be cases where people need things, maybe insulin for a type 1 or something like that. I get it. There's stuff that's needed, but you're right. And I agree with you. And there are shady doctors. There are pockets being filled. It's obvious. I mean, the way that the system's run, I mean, how no one can deny it. So it is a problem. And if they really wanted it to be, healthcare, it would be healthcare. It's sick care, right?
Well, yeah. And also, I don't think these doctors are getting into the industry for the reasons that we thought they are, like,
Mhm.
to help people. They're not there to help people. It's a business. They're businessmen now. And when I saw it from the inside, it literally looks like used car salesmen just trying to sell you on, you need this, or else that car is gonna be out in 6 months.
Right.
You're gonna buy this real quick. And when it comes to a back fusion, or worse off, the whole cage where you're just fusing all the vertebrae, that's so archaic now.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. And even the nurses would say, I wouldn't get this surgery. I know the outcome.
Yeah.
It's not
It's
healthy for a 350-pound woman to get a knee replacement. She's not going to be able to pick herself up.
right.
You should have pushed nutrition on her for 6 to 9 months prior to that knee replacement, and said a requirement to get a knee replacement should be that you need to drop 50 pounds. If you do not drop it, you cannot, because also she's healing her body, and she's going to be much more adept to recover from that surgery. And I will not lie, I've taken care of more than one patient that was 350 pounds that had both knees done at the same time. Now, how are you going to get around if both your knees you can't use? You have just big ass dudes like me walking around,
Right.
just around. Can't. So they end up in long-term facilities. Then they get sick, and it's a long-term way of dying.
Yeah.
Especially with diabetes, people don't understand. You stub your toe, that does not heal, because with diabetes you get poor circulation, and so therefore you become gangrenous in just simple bang of the toe on the edge of the bed. 6 months, you're going to the hospital. These are clients, I shouldn't say clients, patients I've personally taken care of over 3.5 years, come in with that nick on the toe, cuts the toe off. Sorry, that was me. I
No,
apologize.
you're good. You're good. We can't even hear, but I think what you're getting at too. I mean, whether you call it healthcare or sick care, I think the word that needs to go is care.
Yeah, that they need to either implement care or
Become more preventative in a sense. If they care, if you really care, you get to the root of the issue. You don't band-aid it with something they're going to pay for the rest of their lives. And then, as you know, it becomes a web of more medicine, because the side effects of one pill is going to cause 3 more side effects that need more pills. And it just becomes this, you just stop doing the pills,
well,
and then
I
that's,
find it I find it even funny now that the Ozempic
oh boy.
industry is reaching out to me. I get more emails on my business accounts for pushing Ozempic on my patients or my clients. They're not
Sure.
patients, and I would get a residual kickback from it. So I get emails from providers, and I'm not even a medical practitioner, but they're, oh, will you suggest this to your clients? And that's really telling, is that they have a service that they're actually looking for people like you and I to approach and push their medication on our clients with.
Right. And that's it. You just can't sell out. You got to keep what you believe in going for the greater good, because that's where it's ingrained in me. I know that these medicines and these potions and pills and sups and all this crap it's all money generated. And I don't even know how we got here from cardio as the driver of fat loss, but here we are talking about drugs. This is great. Now, this is the best. I love how conversation. This is how a good conversation flows, man. We just went 20 minutes on that, but I am going to dial us right back into your last myth.
Yes.
If we can somehow get back to that, which is fine, because this was a good convo. But eating less meals to lose fat. I believe that was your third one, that we think that like, eating less or eating less meals is to lose fat. While there's truth, in eating less, obviously, but where do you go? That one intrigued me a little bit. So what's your take on that one?
Well, interestingly, at that last part of your statement where eating less helps lose weight, obviously isn't actually true. I had a client that we did a 24-hour fast on that I was trying to test out if he was ready for. He actually gained a pound from not eating in 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't necessarily cause body fat loss doing long-term fasts, or I should say a 24-hour fast. But kind of what I was after in that statement is just simply stating that, for example, the majority of my female clients come to me, they eat once to twice a day because they think that's going to help sustain their body weight and keep them from dropping weight. I put them on a plan that they're eating up to 6 times a day. So with that, it's going to help stimulate their metabolism, get more protein in, and then the healthy fats and some fruits for carbohydrates. So also, the metabolism, unless perfectly healed, you can suppress it of calories and still gain body fat because it isn't functioning optimally. So therefore, like the gentleman who did a 24-hour fast, he was high stress, over 300 pounds, and we did a 24-hour, he jumped up 1 pound. That just tells me his insulin sensitivity is just not there yet. We can do that. So that can happen the same for anybody who's going to suppress their body. You want to at least be eating your lean body mass in grams of protein to hold on to at least just your basic skeletal structure. So, a woman around 175 to 100 grams a day of protein. And then for men, depending on their size, of course, but around 180, 200 grams for the average guy. And then if I have some heavier guys, I start them off a little bit higher because they're going to be hungry all the time. So protein isn't going to kill you. It doesn't store anywhere except for in your muscle tissue, or it goes up the backside. So you can go overboard on protein and
go nuts. Don't be afraid of that stuff, man. Like, and yeah, that's exactly those grams of protein. That's a really safe. You kind of solidified my own. Because you run so many macro counts and things like that, you kind of get an idea of what the average woman and man needs. And that's great. Anywhere between 100 to like 140 for women, you said, right? Something like that, or even higher.
I got a little lower just because I have had some smaller women who wanted to eat healthier and they were really 100 pounds. So,
so yeah, then you're maybe in the 90s, a little less.
Yeah, I did 75 to start just because she used to eating. So it's hard to get women, especially who are carboholics.
Right.
Always want to just eat carbs and it's protein. I don't know how to sell it to you. I'm not
2 ounces of steak. I can't eat 2 ounces of steak. Come on, half a box of cereal, not a problem, right? So, I get it. And then men are about 180 to 220 or something like that, somewhere in that realm. You got to have it run it for yourself. That's another advantage of coming to somebody like Shawn or myself is that you can get that accuracy down, and you also have to go into it with a grain of salt too, because your macros are something they're going to be always changing. They're a starting point. Something might work for you, and you might need to start with what isn't in your macro count, like you were saying with these females who went on to MyFitnessPal, didn't put any information in and got told to eat 1,100 calories a day with 10-15% of it being protein only, they might need to start lower, like at 70-75, like you said, and then work their way up throughout it. You can't just flip it over. And that's why I hate the New Year's resolutions. And that's why what you said earlier, I preach that too, man, to everybody. I say, start now, get it going now, even if you maintain and learn for the rest of the year. Figure yourself out, and then you'll be ready to go. You'll feel good at the new year. You won't feel like you just dug yourself a hole to climb out of just to get back to baseline by March. So,
and typically, let's be honest, most people aren't actually shaving off the Christmas weight. I did some research on that a few years back, and it's probably way worse now after that pandemic we had. But on average, we held on to about 20 pounds, statistically speaking, for America from the Christmas before. So the amount per year that we would gain is starting to increase because we're just more metabolically damaged.
Oh yeah.
It's not even the stats this winter are going to be worse than last, just because we're worse off as
we're stressed. We're stressed out. We're stressed out. We're told sleeping is lazy. We're actually as idle as we've ever been. I mean, you don't need to move. You can go shopping on Amazon. You can order your groceries on Instacart. You sit in front of a screen, and that's the end of it. We never more in our lives has getting up and moving taken more precedence than now. Like, it's never been more necessary. And that leads me to, basically our final bullet point here that we were going to kind of discuss the struggles of today's world, but also the future going forward here with technology. And I want to get your thoughts on this. We have our struggles. We talked about this throughout the episode. What's tough, what's in our way. And we can go on and on with that, but looking to the future a little bit here for especially this industry of training and coaching. I do believe that you said, and I agree with you, that social media and this virtual stuff is huge because your client base just explodes with people that you can help on a virtual sense. But given where the inflation is, and I know it's not, the cost of training, and it's groceries are high. Where do you think we're headed in the next, 5 years or so with this? I mean, you think people are going to start waking up and this is going to become more of a need, because I feel like what we do is a need because of what our society is producing now with unhealthy bodies and insides and mental health. What do you think?
Well, great question. In the future, I do feel like we're going to be much more impactful because of the fact that things are getting so out of hand that it's hard to hide anymore. The FDA, all the organizations that have been lying to us over the year are now pretty much exposed. We've learned that, that food pyramid was garbage. Now it's a joke on South Park. It's so obvious. So we understand, our associations have failed us, and we have to now look to somebody to help us get back on track. And really it comes down to people who are ready for it, because it's not going to end up being the economy getting worse and people not being able to afford it as much as what is it valued to you. I've worked with clients who were literally carpenters and made middle incomes, police officers, who during the pandemic there was a lot of scare on who's going to have a job, if we're going to be working in this environment anymore. And that was a big influx of these clientele, because they realized, oh shit, my health is getting worse, I need to invest. So it really comes down to taking the veil off a lot of these people's eyes that think that there's going to be a magic fix at the end of this bad ride we're on, and that it's time to be proactive and find somebody who is intentionally there for your best interest and not someone that's trying to make money. Our industry is filled with the Instagram influencers who are just making quick bucks on products, and because they got some great photos of themselves and they talk up a great thing at one of these seminars, like a Goggin speech, and then everyone loves the guy, but it's all about the application. I can talk about all these bullet points and this information that we obviously know, but applying it to a life, that's the most important aspect that we have to learn how to do. And I think that once the health and fitness industry realizes that, it's going to be more about them than you and what you think they need, but what they really need, and putting them first and actually caring. And hopefully it weeds out a lot of the industry too, because over the years, I've seen some people in the industry that don't belong, and they were successful. and they did not belong. And whether they made money or not, they didn't help a lot of people. And I mean, if that's your goal, great. If you want to hire somebody who's going to be popular and you can brag about, your famous coach, which, he's an IFBB pro, but can't figure out how to get you under 200 pounds when, you're just, it's obvious, but
Right.
it's money versus true intention. And that'll come to light. Otherwise, I'll just get a lot busier.
Right,
So,
that's exactly right. And then, exactly. And, to kind of just piggyback off what Shawn perfectly just said there, there's always going to be the promise of a pill. There's always going to be the promise of a magic potion that's going to get you to look like an Instagram model or a IBBF pro. There's always going to be that. You can hire somebody that looks like it, but like we talked before, if their lifestyle is not something that fits you, you're not going to attain the look. And you might even end up obtaining the look and be miserable. So don't make it all about your look. I think that's the main thing. I think, like we talked about throughout this episode, make it about your mobility, your longevity, your spirituality, your behaviors, your habits. That's all goes into this. And that's what a good coach is going to go ahead and do for you. Not just write you a plan, give you a boring meal plan that's going to suck and make you go through it over and over again. So I think just sniffing the bullshit is where we need to go here. I think we're always going to have clients. We're always going to have people wanting to do this. Image isn't going to go anywhere. Health is not going to go anywhere. You just got to come to light and to come to a realization and stop lying to yourself that the pill is out there that's going to snap your fingers and erase the decades of abuse, I'd say. So that's everything in a nutshell, I guess, unless you have any other statements you'd like to make before we close it up, Shawn.
no, I think I've said a mouthful already. I'm pretty comfortable. Yeah, this was a great episode.
I loved it, man. Well, we're going to definitely probably do another one, I'd say, sometime soon. I think this is fun. If you'd like to come back and do this.
Yeah, for sure.
But in the meantime, though, if you did want to get in touch with Shawn, and you have about, as of this recording, which we're dropping here on the 12th, the 16th is when Shawn's challenge opens up. You could look more into that or talk to him. His email address is myweightlosscoaching@gmail.com. And the website to look more into his what he does and the challenges and his testimonials and everything is myweightlosscoaching.com. Is that all correct, Shawn? Did I say that right?
That is correct. Yes.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you so much.
Wonderful. All right. So to close it up, if you want to get in touch with me, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, everywhere at MFS Wellness, Mike at mfswellness.com by email. So, for Shawn, thank you for being here. And for those of you out there listening, I can't thank you enough. This has been great to do. We're going to have Shawn back on the show, but until then, everyone have a great day and we'll talk to you soon.